welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. U.S. President Donald Trump says he will begin sending out tariff letters to countries starting Monday. With the 90-day pause set to expire this week, South Korean officials are now in Washington for trade talks. The government and the ruling party held a meeting over the weekend and discussed ways to stabilize food prices and swiftly implement the extra budget. The death toll is rising in Texas after a devastating flash flood killed dozens of people, many of them children. President Donald Trump signed a disaster declaration for the area as rescuers continue their desperate search for the missing. We begin in the U.S., where President Donald Trump says he'll begin sending letters about tariff rates to countries starting Monday. Countries including South Korea are speeding up efforts to enter negotiations. Our Moon Ji-young starts us off.
U.S. President Donald Trump has said he's ready to send out letters starting Monday notifying countries of the tariff they'll have to pay.
Sending letters out on Monday having to do with the trade deals. Could be 12, maybe 15, and they'll be going out on Monday, and some will go out on Tuesday and Wednesday, and we've made deals also, so we're going to have a combination of letters, and some deals have been made.
Speaking to reporters on Sunday, Trump added that either a letter will be sent or a deal will be done by July 9th. Following Trump's comments, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick indicated a 3-week reprieve.
Tariffs go into effect August 1st, but the president is setting the rates and the deals right now.
This comes after Trump's announcement of the tariff in April, which included a 10% base rate for most countries and additional rates, which in some cases went up to around 50%, although he later delayed the effective date for all but the 10% tariff until July 9th. Meanwhile, National Security Advisor Ri Sung-rak is in Washington, D.C. for 3 days to discuss pending issues. On his way to the U.S. on Sunday, he told reporters that Seoul and Washington have been discussing issues related to trade and security.
As the current negotiation phase is becoming quite critical, I'm stepping up my involvement, which is why I'm visiting the United States.
He is expected to meet with his U.S. counterpart Marco Rubio. When asked about defense cost sharing, he indicated that a range of issues were open for discussion, implying that cost sharing could be on the agenda. The agenda is also expected to include coordination for a summit between President Lee Jae-myung and U.S. President Donald Trump. Moon Ji-young, Arirang News.
So as we just heard, U.S. President Donald Trump now says he'll send out tariff letters to at least 12 countries. For more on South Korea's last-minute efforts to minimize the impact of tariffs, we're joined by Professor Shin Myung-gyu, Associate Professor of Economics at Yonsei University. Professor Shim, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So South Korea's presidential advisor and top trade negotiator is in Washington. Will the country be able to make meaningful progress in trade talks?
While there can be some progress at the current meetings, I don't expect to see the deals can be closed very soon. And as the top trade negotiator pointed out, there still exists high uncertainty surrounding the U.S. tariff policy, which changes very often. Importantly, I would like to point out that among 70 countries waiting to negotiate with the U.S., there are only 3 countries that have agreed the trade deals with the U.S., including the deal with Vietnam about 5 days ago. And given that this is the first meeting after the new president was elected in Korea, I guess this round of meeting will be utilized as searching for other countries' options rather than closing the deals.
I see. What leverage does South Korea have in tariff negotiations with the United States?
I think time is the kind of the leverage, and thus the best negotiation strategy for Korea would be not to put all the available options favorable for the U.S. on the table at first. For example, from the perspective of Korea, I don't believe that it will gain much from suggesting the adjustment of defense budget at first to lower the tariff rate, because it only lowers the negotiation power of Korea. It seems that there can be more room for the negotiations as time goes by, because keeping higher tariff rate would result in negative effect on the US economy as well as the Korean economy, and anticipating such a negative effect, the negotiation power of the US cannot be kept forever, as we have already experienced, given that it should deal with many countries, including Korea, at the same time.
Right. And the tariff deadline, the 90-day pause on tariffs, ends on Wednesday. What's likely to happen if this deadline is not extended? Which South Korean industries do you think will be the hardest hit once the tariffs go into effect?
Yeah, I expect that the tariff deadline would be extended at some point. While President Trump argued that there will be no extension in the deadline, we have experienced a lot that the Korean US government changes its stance on the economic policies depending on the state of the world and the economy. As I have already pointed out earlier, the US finished the trade deals with only 3 countries, and it is more likely that it will extend the deadline to avoid the kind of the side effects of higher tariff on the US economy. So if you think about the situation when the deadline is not extended, there would be some industries that would be hit hard, automobile and steel industries in particular. Especially the newly passed bill in the US reduced the subsidies on the EV cars, and higher tariff will make Korean automobile firms to lose their price competitiveness in the US. And steel industry is already hit hard, and higher tariff might make the industry more vulnerable.
I see. And as for the domestic economy, the government will soon begin distributing cash handouts, and this is a key part of its supplementary budget. How effective will this measure be in reviving the domestic economy?
My view on the effectiveness of the direct transfer is not so negative. It seems that the Korean economy needs more fiscal spending for directly boosting demand, especially because the Korean economic downturn comes mainly from the demand side, and it can be relieved by greater government spending or transfer and less in the short run. While there exists a lot of studies arguing that the fiscal policy is not so effective, there also exists many studies that show that the effect of the expansionary fiscal policy is particularly effective during the recessionary episodes, and I think it applies to the Korean economy.
I see. All right, Professor Shim, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for this morning. Thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
The South Korean government has asked Washington to impose U.S. port entry fees on foreign-built car carriers from China and exclude South Korea. According to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative on Sunday, South Korea's Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy and the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries submitted an opinion containing their official position last week. The U.S. announced in April that it plans to implement new port entry fees on vessels, particularly those built or operated by Chinese entities, to help boost the U.S. shipbuilding industry and address concerns about China's dominance in global shipping. Seoul also called on Washington to exclude South Korea from paying a port entry fee, as it would run counter to the mutually beneficial trade relationship between Korea and the United States. The first high-level consultation between government officials and the ruling party under the Lee Jae-myung administration took place over the weekend. Key topics included the efforts to stabilize food prices and swift implementation of the extra budget. Our political correspondent Shin-ayo reports.
As consumer prices in South Korea rose 2.2% on-year in June, the fastest increase in 5 months, the government and ruling Democratic Party agreed to review measures to stabilize prices, including efforts to minimize processed food price hikes. This came during the first high-level consultation meeting between government officials and the ruling party under the Lee Jae-myung administration. At the meeting held on Sunday at Prime Minister Kim Min-seok's residence, Kim urged the government and the DP to work as one and do their best to serve the country and its people.
The high-level consultation between the government and the ruling party will function as a platform to coordinate key policy tasks and produce tangible outcomes under the president's leadership.
The DP called on the government to quickly implement a supplementary budget for economic recovery. The cabinet on Saturday approved an extra budget bill worth 31.8 trillion Korean won, or around $23.3 billion US.
To help boost spending and support incomes, consumption vouchers should be rolled out before the peak summer vacation season. We once again request swift implementation of the extra budget.
In response, the government said it plans to execute 85% of the budget by the end of September and work with related ministries to closely monitor its impact. Meanwhile, safety measures for potential disasters during the summer season were also part of discussions. The government promised to take thorough steps to prepare for natural disasters like floods and storms, and both sides agreed to strengthen their response to heat waves. They also agreed to communicate more closely and hold regular high-level consultation meetings. 신하영, Arirang News.
Dozens of people have been killed after a flood struck central Texas on Friday. Many of those killed are children attending a summer camp. President Donald Trump announced Sunday that he signed a major disaster declaration for relief for the area. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
The death toll in Kerr County in central Texas reached at least 68 on Sunday after a catastrophic flood struck the region on Friday. Heavy rains and flash floods caused a surge of 6 to 8 meters on the Guadalupe River near Kerrville, leading to massive damage. The flood impacted 6 counties across central Texas, with many of the casualties coming from Kerr County. Many of the victims were children at a summer camp. At least 41 people are still missing, while at least 10 other people lost their lives in surrounding counties.
I had the opportunity yesterday to visit Camp Mystic and get to see firsthand what happened there, as well as all the way downstream after that. And it was nothing short of horrific to see what those young children went through.
With the summer camp season in full swing, many Texas residents in the tight-knit communities saw friends and neighbors impacted by the flood.
A week ago at Camp Mystic, I had 5 granddaughters in Camp Mystic, and they finished their first session and they're home now. But some of their friends were there for the second session, and my heart goes out to all those little girls.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced on his social media on Sunday that he had signed a major disaster declaration, which would allow first responders to have access to the resources they need as they continue search and recovery efforts. Trump said that the families are enduring an unimaginable tragedy with many lives lost, adding that his administration will work closely with state and local leaders. With Trump's declaration, the Federal Emergency Management Agency has been activated in Texas, with the Department of Homeland Security ensuring that state and local authorities have the resources they need to lead a swift and effective response amid this tragic disaster. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
If you're in Korea, you might have come across these small black insects that fly around as a pair, which is why they're named Lovebugs. They've been around for the past few years, but their return has been especially unwelcoming this summer with its worst seasonal surge in the numbers of Lovebugs. Our Park Hyo-bin tells us more.
Hiking trails covered with black bugs. At the top of the mountain trail, bags filled with dead bugs are stacked one after another. They're called Lovebugs, and they've been appearing in massive numbers across South Korea's capital region every summer in recent years. But many say they've never seen this many before.
They stick to everything. Even if you try to fan them away, they don't come off easily. There were just so many. I literally couldn't walk around without doing this. This year has been just unbelievable.
Here I'm standing on Gyeongsan Mountain, and as you can see, there are love bugs all over my clothes. And over here, these are their dead bodies. There are several theories behind the surge, but experts point to climate change as a key factor.
Although it's monsoon season, we've had little rain this year, which is a possible sign of climate change. Typhoons have missed Korea and brought heavy rainfall to southwestern China, causing years of flooding there. That may have driven the bugs to migrate naturally into Korea.
Though they cause some discomfort, love bugs are actually considered beneficial insects, making aggressive extermination efforts difficult to justify.
Lovebugs actually play a beneficial role in the ecosystem by serving as food for other species and helping decompose organic matter. They don't bite or spread disease, but when they appear in large numbers like this, people tend to see them as pests.
Instead of using chemical pesticides, local governments are turning to eco-friendly control methods. Some municipalities are using LED lights to lure the bugs away from populated areas, while others deploy fire trucks to spray water and kill them. Authorities are also collecting the insects by hand and using sticky traps to reduce their numbers. Experts say the bugs tend to swarm most intensely until mid-July, after which their numbers decline. But they also warn that these seasonal invasions are likely to continue.
Given recent climate patterns, these outbreaks are very likely to continue. The areas where love bugs appear may shift, but the phenomenon itself is expected to persist for the time being.
As love bugs return each year in greater numbers, balancing ecological value with public discomfort is becoming a growing challenge for local governments and residents alike. Park Hyubin, Arirang News.
One of South Korea's largest musical festivals is taking place in Daegu. This year's event takes place amid enthusiasm for Korean musicals, especially after the musical Maybe Happy Ending won 6 Tony Awards. Our Pyeong has this report.
This summer, Daegu once again transforms into a stage. Korea's largest musical festival, the Daegu International Musical Festival, or DIMF, brings creators and audiences together from all over. This year, showcasing 29 musicals from home and abroad.
The dress rehearsal for this year's closing performance, Panda, is about to begin. This Chinese production blends dazzling acrobatics with traditional martial arts, a real treat for the eyes.
A visual and musical spectacle, Panda tells a heartfelt story about love, coexistence, and the care we owe to nature. It's a piece that's beloved by Korean audiences. This reading performance, part of DIMF's musical incubation program, offers young talents a rare chance to present their work. Some pieces even go on to become full-scale productions with funding and support.
I received a lot of overall support from DIMF throughout the production process. But what helped me the most was getting direct feedback from the mentor instructors. That was incredibly helpful in developing and improving the piece.
I think the best part of this program is getting to meet great creators, working alongside talented actors, and simply having opportunities like this. For actors like me, that's one of the most valuable aspects.
With global success stories like Maybe Happy Ending, DIMF is more than just a festival.
As DIMF approaches its 20th anniversary next year, our hope is that musical fans from around the world will come to Daegu. To make that happen, we believe it's essential to connect the festival with tourism. Our goal and also our challenge is to grow DIMF into a truly global musical festival.
It's a symbol of what's possible for Korea's creative industry. Pyeong, Arirang News, Daegu.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and this is The World Now. Leaders of the 10-member BRICS group gathered in Rio de Janeiro on Sunday for the Bloc 17 summit under the slogan Strengthening Global South Cooperation for More Inclusive and Sustainable Governance. Leaders from Brazil, India, China, South Africa, and newer members such as Egypt, Indonesia, Iran, UAE, and Ethiopia gathered for the two-day summit. Despite the absence of Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin, who attended virtually, BRICS leaders achieved a rare consensus, approving a 31-page declaration. Key points included criticizing indiscriminate U.S. tariff hikes and condemning increased NATO defense spending. Host President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva urged the bloc to act as defenders of multilateralism. BRICS nations represent more than half the world's population and 40% of its economic output. The gathering comes amid growing calls for a united front to counterbalance the U.S.-led G7. Tesla and SpaceX founder Elon Musk has announced the formation of the America Party, marking a further break from former ally U.S. President Donald Trump. Musk made the announcement on social media on Saturday after posting a poll that showed 2-to-1 support from 1.2 million respondents. He pledged to oppose Trump-supported legislation and shake up U.S. politics ahead of 2026. Musk branded the current political system a one-party structure and not a democracy, and vowed to give people back their freedom, as well as showing his outrage over what Trump called his big beautiful bill that Musk said would bankrupt the country. Trump on Sunday called Musk's plans ridiculous, but said that Musk can have fun with it. Musk was once a major Trump campaign financier and head of the Department of Government Efficiency. Pope Leo XIV arrived at his summer residence in Castel Gandolfo on Sunday, the first time in 12 years that a pope has used a summer retreat. The pope will spend 2 weeks from July 6th to 20th at the Villa Barberini on the edge of Lake Albano. Before leaving the Vatican, the pontiff said during his Sunday prayer, "I hope everyone can have some vacation time to restore the body and spirit." The stay at Castel Gandolfo is a change from the late Pope Francis, who stayed in the Vatican during the summer. Legendary artist and Black Sabbath frontman Ozzy Osbourne delivered his final live performance on Saturday in Birmingham, England, under the title Back to the Beginning. Seated on a symbolic bat-themed throne due to his Parkinson's and spinal issues, the 76-year-old singer launched into his solo hits before being joined by Black Sabbath's original lineup. The 11-hour event also included performances from other rock legends such as Metallica and Guns N' Roses. The massive event drew 40,000 fans to the concert at Villa Park and over 5.8 million viewers via global livestream. 3 charities are set to receive proceeds from the event, including Cure Parkinson's.
The searing heat wave continues across Korea. Heat wave warnings are now more widespread than advisories covering most of the country. The heat in western regions will get stronger this week. Tomorrow will top out at 36 degrees Celsius in the capital and will stay that hot. Meanwhile, the east coast regions, including Gangneung, will finally get some heat relief thanks to easterly winds. It's so today, the onset of the sweltering heat of summer, and the numbers prove it. Seoul gets up to 32 degrees, Gwangju at 35, Daegu at 37 degrees Celsius with very high UV rays. Meanwhile, expect scattered showers in various inland regions until this evening, with up to 50 millimeters of rain expected along with thunderstorms. Now, Seoul is about to experience the hottest days of the year so far this week, so please take extra precaution to prevent heat-related illnesses, stay hydrated, and stay safe.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.